Welcome, welcome, welcome to One Take Wine. What are we even doing here? Hey, it's Côte Rôtie time. I like my Côte Rôtie at this time of year. It's the autumn. You know, it goes well with mushrooms, goes well with great food. Côte Rôtie is quite an elegant wine for such a sort of big-bodied wine. And a very sort of rich and flavorful wine, and yet it has this elegance that I think it's very Burgundian in influence, at least from some producers, and in particular, the producer that I'm going to drink today. Today, we're going to drink Jean Luc Jamet. A few weeks ago, I did some Jamet Pinot Noir and Chardonnay. And then I realized, you know what, it's time to also do some Côte Rôties. We haven't had some Côte Rôtie in a long time. This is the flagship wine, the Terrasses. I think there's another one, a higher cuvee, that's very rare. Never seen before, but if you know about it, you know, put it down in the comments. I think it was something about pirates or something. I don't know. Anyway, back to the Terrasses. We're going to try these in 3 different vintages. This is the latest vintage that I purchased, 2020. We're also going to have a 2019, and then the wine that started it all is a 2016. Yeah, what are we waiting for? Let's get it on. What do we got in the glass? I'm starting in descending order here. So I'm going to start with the newest vintage that I have. I know there's newer vintages out there, but this is the youngest one that I have, the 2020, which I was quite excited to try. Beautiful, beautiful plum. No, blackberry. No, it's not plummy. I would say blackberry. Blackberry, a little curish. There's a smokiness to it, a little bit of that smoke that I found in the Pinot Noir, that barbecue smoke. And that is just pure, you know, this sweetness and this delicate turn to it. Very licorice, but one of those ones that's a little bit more seductive and not as harsh or heavy or black. So it's kind of red fruited. It's leaning red, even though it is a black fruit. Fairly high acidity as well, and very light boned, very light mannered. Really delicious wine and elegant, you know, above all elegant, still very tannic. Medium length. I don't think that this one is super long. But oh boy, what a nose. Violets and crushed mineral. And then that very, very licorice laden mushroom field. I don't know, something earthy, loamy, you know? I love it. It's not a super complex wine in the sense of what it does in the mouth. It's not doing pirouettes. It's kind of a very tannic down both sides. The tannin is still a little bit raw, a little young. This is going to benefit from a few years. It's been open overnight, and that helped a lot because it was much more raw yesterday. And then there's a little carpet tannin on the top of the palate. The fruit sensation is more on the upper part of the mouth, the roof of the mouth. And then there's a nice cooling breeze right down the middle. I like it. I love it. I mean, it's so, you know, a lot of Côte Rôties you could say are very Burgundian from certain producers at least, who don't overdo it with wood or they have a little bit more of a delicate touch about them. And I find that way sometimes with Ogier. Not Bellinen, but the other one there, Lancement, I think is a little bit more that way. These are not as extracted as those wines. But at the same time, boy, what a delicious bottle of wine. 13.5%. That's great stuff. Highly recommended. If you do see it, if I was scoring, I'm not, but if I was, give it a solid 94. That's what I do. I'm still tasting it. There's another thing about these wines. I find them to have a little bit of a yeasty bread-like quality about them. So it's a bit It's a very mouth-watering sensation, you know, it makes you want to eat. Fantastic. Let's move on. What do we got in it? Yes. The color, yeah, it's probably pretty hard for you to tell, and it's a little bit hard for me to tell, but when I poured them side by side, the first one, the 2020, has still got some purple tinges to it. The 2019 is fully resolved in the sense that there is no purple in it. It is a little murkier. And boy, it just leaps out. It just leaps out. The class of it leaps out on the nose. I mean, it's fucking fantastic. Excuse my French. I'm gonna beat that. Oh, just a very high-toned, almost minty nose, and there is the barbecue meat. The fruit is less pronounced than the 20. But it's a way more cooler and a way more elegant fruit. This is a top-notch wine. I think it's got some years to go, and yet at the same time, it's always been ready right from the get-go. Even when they were brand new, I was popping and pouring these puppies. I can't believe how good they are. Really super highly recommended. There's a biscuity feel about this, quality to this. Biscuits and some red fruit, I think, you know, some strawberry, raspberry type fruits to go along with the blackberry. I think it's even more red fruit than black fruit, honestly. High-toned, very long, mineral-driven, different palate sensation this time. It's much more mineral and straight down the middle of the tongue over that way, and it comes as a column, like this cool mineral layer, and then this tannin layer, and then maybe they're multi-layered, you know, like that, and it's just like straight down the middle. Less about the sides. What's happening on the sides is just pure salivation the entire time. Very, very long, you know, finish. You're breathing out the essence of Côte Rôtie. This is a magnificent wine. I tell you another 2019 in Côte Rôtie that I was over the moon about was La Turque. They're so extracted, they're so powerful, they're so deep and saturated. This is not that. This is elegance personified. Weirdly, candy cane biscuit, like, there's something so deliciously dessert-like about this wine, and at the same time it's serious, and it's got salvia. I think that's much more salvia than licorice. Highly, highly recommended. 2019. Let's take a look at that again. 14% higher alcohol volume, of course. I think probably a warmer year. If you see those ones, you don't even think twice. Let's move on. Third wine in this series. Always been a favorite of mine. And here again, we're a little bit on the high-toned red fruit scale. Maybe even some red Twizzler licorice. And then, oh boy, some definite, so violet-like. There's a depth and an energy in it. You know, there's an energy as well in 1922. They all have this energy, this kind of inbred energy that's, I mean, it's remarkable. You can't, you don't get this kind of energy from wines and from other places. For me, one of the grandest expressions in the world, just because they're more elegant. They have class about them, you know, they have a cooling when they're done right. In the right hands, which often they are. It's a sweeter and more saturated type of flavor. Almost a jelly kind of flavor to it, sweetness to it. It's murkier in color too, so you can see the age of it, but you don't sense it. You sense it on the nose, but you don't sense it on the palate. There's no tiredness. There's no fatigue in this. It's just absolutely gorgeous. This Twizzler combination of, you know, black and red licorices. Just, they combine in it. They're doing super pirouettes. And again, a different sensation in the mouth, because I think that sweetness, that very strong sweetness, goes through the palate, lodges itself at the back, leaves behind this cool, tannic sort of vapor, and then sort of influences that vapor with little spurts of sweetness that come from your back breath. I love the effect of wines on the palate, and that's why I kind of go on about this, how it feels in the mouth. I think mouthfeel is one of the greatest sensations about wine. Worth talking about, even if it sounds a little dodgy sometimes. That biscuit thing is going on. It's almost like a port wine, but without the heft. It's got those sort of licorice but high-toned minerality notes that you get in some top ports. Very, very unique. This I would have a hard time mistaking for anything but what it is. 19, I could see maybe kind of wandering a little bit into even Bordeaux territory, just because you wouldn't say Burgundy just because it's too unique to be a Burgundy, but a Bordeaux, I was thinking Medion or something, or one of the more exotic ones could be. This has got, oh my gosh, this has got a little bit of the farmyard to it, a little bit of undergrowth, and then the dead leaves. I don't know. I think there's even more to this to be had. All three of these wines have been open overnight. Can you imagine 2016 is in this kind of shape? I know it's not that long. It's only 8 years, but still, this was like one of the best things I've done in a long time, is opening these three bottles of wine to taste them side by side and compare different vintages of them. I mean, what a treat, a real treat. I'm going to sip on the 2016 while I wrap this up. Okay, Jean Luc Jamet, what was I going to say about him? 2013. In 2012, he was still, I think that was the last vintage with Domaine Jamet. Domaine Jamet, which is still going and still makes fantastic wines. Very different style. Very, very different style. Anyway, they're brothers, and now they live side by side. Their estate, as far as I understand, is separated by a wall. So they're still like that close in terms of being neighbors, but both doing their own things. Jean Luc Jamet wines are a little bit more high-toned, I think. They're a little more forgiving, especially young. They dance a little lighter. They have a little sweetness in the upper notes that the Domaine Jamet wines don't have. I'm not too sure why that is. Apparently, he uses less whole bunch than other producers in Côte Rôtie, 30%, 35%, somewhere along those lines. But there's more to it than that. There's something going on here. There's a crazy energy about this. I gave the 2020 a 94. I would stick with that score, a 94. 2019, 95 plus. I'm tempted to give 96, to be honest. And then the 2016, I would probably go 95 straight up. They're still in the 50 to 60 euro range, right? You're going to be hard pressed to get a better wine at that price level that is this quality made from a top producer in Côte Rôtie. So the 16 is very, very close to my heart. That said, I think this 19 here is the best wine. I think it's the best wine he's produced. I've had it in 2017, had it in 2015, and in 2014. 14 was no great shakes. 14 in Côte Rôtie in general was no great shakes as far as I'm concerned. The 15 is a good vintage in Côte Rôtie, and his wine was good, but it was nothing compared to the 16. The 16's got energy that it has the soul that now these wines always have. I didn't like 18. I thought it was a bit clunky. It was the wrong vintage for this type of production, I would say. And 19 just blew me away. It's by far the best that they've produced. I wish I had a Magnum of this. I think it's better than the 16. It is a better wine than the 16. And then, it takes away from the 20, which has got this malty black licorice nose to it. Now that I come back to it, it feels a little bit more classically Côte Rôtie. Feels a little bit more expected along those lines, and at the same time, very high quality. And if you didn't know, though, the others, because the violets are really, really powerful in this too. But a little murkier, that darkness, there is a darkness to it, more of a roasted darkness to it, more of a coffee finish to it. that I think is more pronounced now that I've come back down from the 16 to 19 to 20. That coffee finish, and that's probably just from the wood in its youth, and it's going to eat that up in a year or two. But I think the vintage is always going to be a little bit heavier, a little bit more, still elegant, but a little denser. So it's going to lack that almost Burgundian effect, I would say. What can I tell you? I think these wines are great value. Have you been trying them? I mean, if you have, let me know in the comments. Let me know your impression. Let me know how you feel about this producer, or if you've had Jean Luc Jamet, or if you've had a chance to compare them both. That's a very interesting comparison. Or any other Côte Rôties that you like or dislike, or any other thoughts you might have. Thanks so much for watching. Appreciate you being here. We'll see you again soon. Until then, stay thirsty.